exemption. For more, let's bring in our poly panel. We're joined by Liberal MP Tim Wilson and also joined by Labor MP Anika Wells. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for coming on this morning. Good morning. And so, as we just said, Tim, Australia's supply of the Pfizer vaccine has been brought forward. So to clarify, we're not getting more of the vaccine, we'll just be getting it slightly earlier. Are you confident in what the Prime Minister has said this year, that all willing Australians will be offered a vaccine by the end of the year?
I'm extremely confident we're going to hit that scenario by the end of the year. The first 1 million doses to get out of COVID-19 vaccine took 45 days. We're now trending towards 1 million a week. So the opportunity for Australians to get the vaccine is real. What we need is obviously people to go and either to their GPs or go to the mass vaccination centres so that they can, as soon as they're eligible, be in a position to get it. And particularly with Pfizer, we know the time period is truncated for 3 weeks between the two doses, so the opportunity to achieve it is very real and very exciting.
Anika Wells, surely this is a fantastic sign for Australia, the fact that the vaccine rollout is being brought forward this early. You know, there'll be more vaccines available for younger Australians as well. Surely the government can be given some credit.
Not when you measure them by their own targets, Fauziah. The vaccine rollout has been omni-shambles compared to what even the Prime Minister said that we could expect from his government as of late last year. I think that Sydney-siders don't need a couple of politicians from Queensland and Victoria to add to their burden this morning, but I do think they deserve to have their questions answered and better answers than what we've had so far. There are so many problems when it comes to this rollout. Even Pfizer came out to contradict what the Prime Minister had said around the timing of their rollout. They said that their deadlines remain unchanged. So I think we want to know where those 300,000 doses are coming from. Are they in the cupboard at Kirribilli? But practically on the ground, people come to my mobile offices who are aged care workers who have been told that they need to be vaccinated by September as part of these new mandatory measures, but there's no way for them to do that. They can't get Pfizer before September here in Brisbane, and even if they got AstraZeneca tomorrow, they'd still probably not make their September deadline. So I think we need to see a lot more work and a lot less backslapping from the Morrison government.
Tim, it's still only early July. It's a long wait until the end of the year. And when you say that you're confident that all willing Australians will be offered a vaccine, that's not the same as all Australians actually getting the vaccine, because I know of a lot of people who want the vaccination, but they're either not eligible yet or they can't get an appointment.
Well, firstly, I am very confident we'll get there. Yes, it's July. It was always going to take the whole year to get the public vaccinated for everybody who wanted to be vaccinated. And of course, some sections of the community are not eligible yet because the timelines that were always set out and agreed between the Commonwealth and the states was to target populations that were most vulnerable at the beginning. And of course, when you're rolling out vaccines at 1 million a week, we'll progressively move to those groups, open the opportunity for other groups of the community to make sure that they're eligible as well. So I am very confident and optimistic about being able to achieve it. Now, we're not likely to reach 100% vaccination rate, and the reason is because we live in a country where people have the freedom to choose whether they get the vaccine or not. I would just encourage those people who are hesitant, firstly, to go and speak to their GP and to have a discussion with them, because these vaccines are safe. They have been approved by the regulators, and to make sure that they understand it's not just about protecting your health, it's also about protecting and taking responsibility for the health of others, because, of course, you may be fine should you be infected with COVID-19 if you're young or you don't have immunoconditions which lead to potential risk, but there might be family members, friends, sometimes who don't even talk about their health conditions, who you might be putting at risk if you don't get the vaccine.
Anika, the Prime Minister also mentioned yesterday that there'd be a new advertising campaign launched tomorrow. Is that something that you welcome?
I definitely welcome it. It is much overdue. There are some really great examples of national education campaigns from other countries that have been in place for months. Given we have had this now as a national emergency issue since February last year, I wonder what the delay has been. And just to pick up on what Tim was talking about there, members of the Morrison government, like Tim, keep putting the onus back on us. back on Australian workers to do their work for them. If you've got concerns, go talk to your GP. You're an aged care worker, you need to go find your own jab. Rather than taking on that work themselves, providing a national education campaign that answers people's questions without having to load up GP clinics, and providing vaccinations for frontline workers in their workplaces.
But please, this is ridiculous. Firstly, unless you wish to compel people and make it compulsory to get the vaccine and forcefully inject in people's arms, the way to persuade people about the importance and the responsibility of getting a vaccine is to encourage them to do the right thing, not to spend time on national television seeking to seek cheap political points. We need to build confidence. This is a moment where the whole of the country needs to work together, not in a situation where we don't turn to Australians and say, you're part of the responsibility of getting Australia to be COVID-19 vaccine treated so that we're in the best position to end measures which lead to things like the lockdowns presently in Sydney and, of course, have been experienced extensively in the state of Victoria.
You know, Anika Wells, a lot of the problem seems to be, and the government has been criticised for the supply issue, but supply really is very uncertain the world over. You know, if you compare Australia's vaccination rollout to similar countries like New Zealand's well behind Australia, so is Taiwan, Japan doing roughly as well as we are, South Korea only slightly better. At the start of the pandemic, it was a real gamble whether it was Pfizer or whether AstraZeneca. Now, the government went with both. Pfizer, of course, an mRNA, unable to be manufactured here in Australia. AstraZeneca can be manufactured locally, and therefore, you know, the government took the gamble and went with AstraZeneca, which is widely available, far more widely available than Pfizer at the moment. Would Labor have made that same gamble with that much uncertainty right at the start of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think Chris Bowen has said numerous times since late November that there were 5 or 6 vaccines on offer, and he said from that moment when the PM was negotiating that we should have a greater diversity of vaccines so that we aren't entirely reliant, like we have now become, on AstraZeneca and rely upon other countries' generosity letting us ship in Pfizer. But to pick up your point, Fauziah, that's exactly right. We should have the ability to manufacture mRNA vaccines here on shores. Here in the north side of Brisbane, people really want to see Aussie manufacturing come back because it supports local jobs. Why didn't we prioritise local manufacturing, the production of an mRNA vaccine back in March 2020? Because we're now, you know, in July 2021, you would think that we would be able to have these things rolled out by now. I think what our work as local MPs should be is supporting local business, encouraging local manufacturing and making decisions to manufacture stuff onshore locally where we absolutely possibly can, and this is a real missed opportunity.
Well, speaking of supporting business, Tim Wilson, in Sydney, the New South Wales Premier has said that unless she sees a dramatic change in the numbers of COVID cases in Sydney, then the lockdown won't end as scheduled on Friday. Will the federal government extend more federal support, given that we don't have schemes in place like JobKeeper that we had last year?
Well, firstly, I just want to correct something was just said. AstraZeneca as a vaccine is safe and available, and if people are willing to take it, they should. I would have if I had had the circumstance or the opportunity to do so. So pandering to the idea of suggesting that there is some sort of serious risk by politicians, as Anika has just done, undermines public confidence, is very bad for the vaccine.
I'll just cut in there, Tim. I'm actually fully vaccinated under AstraZeneca, so I've said absolutely nothing of the sort.
Is that you don't think that Australians should be able to utilise it. I disagree with that. I think that the evidence on this is actually extremely clear, and it's responsible that we encourage Australians to get vaccinated. Now, obviously, there's been risk assessments around prioritisation, but it's very important that politicians don't seek to inflame community concern against actual risk. Now, in addition to that,
perhaps you could talk to your mate Clive Palmer about not mailing out anti-vax material into marginal seat neighbourhoods.
For additional assistance and support to Victorian households after a threshold had been met, including, of course, that was matched by the state government to support people who were in low income or insecure work, but also an expectation of support for business. So we're taking the same approach with New South Wales, which is the Commonwealth is here to assist and to help, but we want the state government to stand up and support their small businesses and, of course, their workers as well.
Right, Tim Wilson and Anika Wells, we'll have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Fauziah. Thanks, Johanna. Thanks, Tim.
It is